Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of the Football Betting Series here on YouTube Premier League edition. To be honest, February has not been great. We're still recovering from a poor first weekend of the month. Our February record stands at 10 wins and 8 losses with 0 pushes, and a total monthly record of minus £123.20. When we take that away from the overall record, we're still fairly healthy. 133 wins, 52 losses and 20 pushes, for a total series profit of £767.18. Form is temporary, but I'm hoping to show that class is permanent with the picks in today's episode. So if you do think I'm talking some sense, please drop a like down below and subscribe to the channel for more content. Without further ado, let's get into it. Our first pick sees second place Arsenal playing host to 16th place West Ham. And Arsenal, they picked up another win in their last match by 2-0 away to Leicester. Both goals came courtesy of Mikel Merino, who stepped up in the face of Arsenal's injury crisis up top. He did leave it late as both goals came after the 80th minute, but looking at the stats, Arsenal did come out on top in every major win predictor, and they did deserve the win. In terms of form, that's now 3 Premier League wins in a row, and they are unbeaten in their last 15 Premier League matches. They may be out of the Carabao Cup and the FA Cup, but they are still pushing Liverpool for the Premier League title. They host a West Ham side who suffered defeat in their last game against Brentford. Kevin Schade 4th minute effort was the only goal of the match in a game in which the Bees did control. Disappointingly for West Ham, despite trailing for at least 86 minutes, they were unable to generate any more than 0.82 XG. In terms of form, this is now back-to-back losses for the Irons, and they are winless through their last 4 Premier League matches. However, with no real fears of relegation, despite sitting 16th, they are 10 points clear of the drop. When we look at the head-to-head record, the last fixture between these sides came in late November, and despite West Ham scoring twice at the Olympic Stadium, the Gunners really showed their offensive prowess, scoring 5 goals in reply, with each goal being scored by a different player. Numbers-wise, this result was fitting as Arsenal did come out on top in every facet. The only concern would be allowing West Ham 2 big chances and a combined XG of 1.54. That recent win did make it back-to-back victories for Arsenal over West Ham, with West Ham winning the other 2 matches prior to this, so it's a bit of a mixed head-to-head record. My prediction for today's game is that Arsenal are hungry to add more points, as they haven't given up on the title by a long shot. West Ham have nothing really to play for at this stage of the competition, no realistic chance of European football or of being dragged into a relegation battle. I think Graham Potter's going to use the rest of the season as a chance to experiment to see what his side will look like next year, and I think we're looking at Arsenal to win here, but with the makeshift front 3 of Trossard, Sterling and Nwaneri, I think we're going to temper things with a half stake in this one. Second selection sees 20th place Southampton playing host to 10th place Brighton, and Southampton were bested in their last game in a South Coast derby against Bournemouth. Dango Otada and Ryan Christie netted within a space of 2 minutes to put the Cherries in pole position for the majority of the match. In the second half, the Saints were given a glimmer of hope of rescuing a point by Sulemana before Marcus Tavernier added Bournemouth's third to restore the 2-goal lead and to seal the deal, with the final score ending 3-1 to Bournemouth. In terms of form, after a brief change in fortunes with the win over Ipswich Town, Southampton did return to losing ways. They've now lost 7 of the last 8 Premier League matches. They host a Brighton side who beat Chelsea by 3-0 in their last match. Matoma opened the scoring within 27 minutes, with Yankuba Minta adding a second shortly thereafter. And then in the second period, Minta would add his second and Brighton's third to kill off the game as a contest, the scores finishing 3-0. Taking a look at the stats, we can see that Chelsea, well, they never really got going in this one. Despite holding more than twice the possession of their hosts, Chelsea did only manage to produce an XG of 0.54 and basically had no end product in the final third. In terms of form, this does mean it's back-to-back wins for Brighton across all competitions. Both of those wins actually came against Chelsea, and it was nice to put the 7-0 defeat against Nottingham Forest behind them. When we look at the head-to-head records, the reverse fixture between these sides finished on as even. Matoma made the breakthrough within half an hour before Flynn Downs levelled the score around about the hour mark, with the final score finishing 1-1. This scoreline was a much better result for the Saints than the Seagulls, as Brighton came out on top in every statistic, but perhaps the XG does show that the quality of chances did merit a 1-1 scoreline. This draw broke a 2-game winning streak for Brighton over Southampton, but the draw did serve to continue a 6-game unbeaten record for the Seagulls. My prediction for today's game is that I feel like a broken record when I'm talking about Southampton this year. They're simply not good enough to remain in the Premier League. They're coming off a loss against the Brighton side, who are coming off back-to-back wins against a traditional top 6 side. Additionally, Southampton holds the worst home record in the division against a side that's in the top 10 away from home. I like Brighton to win this game for sure, but by taking a look at their recent away form, we can see that there is a loss and a handful of draws in the last 6 road games. The odds don't really provide any value in laying Southampton, so I'm going to exercise some caution by backing Brighton, but only for a half stake here. Our third pick in today's episode sees 7th place Newcastle playing host to 3rd place Nottingham Forest. And Newcastle, they really didn't look like themselves in their 4-0 loss to Man City last time out. Omar Marmoush scored a hat-trick within the space of 14 minutes in the first half to really announce his arrival in Manchester. In the second period, James McAtee added Manchester City's 4th. Numbers-wise, the win was as dominant as it sounds. The citizens won out on every major win predictor statistic and maybe back to winning ways. In terms of form, it's now back-to-back losses for Newcastle in the Premier League, either side of successes in the domestic cups. The Magpies have also lost 3 of the last 4 Premier League matches, which has seen them slide down the league table and cast some doubts over a Champions League finish. They host a Nottingham Forest side who were bested in their last game by Fulham. Emil Smith-Rowe opened the scoring after a quarter of an hour, with Chris Wood levelling the scores up before half-time. However, taking a look at the numbers, Fulham did dominate proceedings, so perhaps it was little surprise when they retook the lead thanks to Calvin Bassey after the hour mark, with the Cottagers going on to claim all 3 points at a 2-1 win. In terms of form, it's been pretty mixed of late. 2 losses and 2 wins across all competitions. They've also lost 2 of their last 3 Premier League matches, losing by 5-0 against Bournemouth before putting 7 past Brighton, and then the recent loss to Fulham at Craven Cottage. One thing's for certain, the Forest games are exciting. In terms of the head-to-head record, the reverse fixture did see Newcastle pick up the win. Murillo opened the scoring for Forest and gave them the lead at half-time, but it was Newcastle that dominated the second period. They generated an XG almost 6 times greater than their host, so perhaps it was no surprise when Isak, Joe Linton and Barnes netted to complete the turnaround and pick up all 3 points, with the final score finishing 3-1. This result did make it back-to-back Premier League wins for Newcastle over Forest. They've also won 4 of the last 5 league encounters. My prediction for today's game is that I'm not really sure I can tip a side here. Both sides come into this match on pretty inconsistent form right now. It looks like Newcastle have had the better of the head-to-head record, but coming off a 4-0 loss, I'm not sure that they're going to be at the heights of confidence. However, with Chris Wood and Alexander Isak being the 3rd and 4th top goal scorers respectively, one thing I am keen on is goals. Newcastle have seen over 2.5 goals in each of the last 6 Premier League matches, and also in each of the last 6 Premier League games at St James's Park. Whereas Nottingham Forest, they've seen over 2.5 goals in each of the last 4 Premier League games, and in each of the last 3 games away from home. When we look at the head-to-head record, each of the last 4 encounters have seen over 2.5 goals, so I'm going to be backing over 2.5 goals for a full stake here in bet number 3. Our 4th and final selection in today's episode sees 4th place Manchester City playing host to top of the table Liverpool. And Manchester City looked to be back to their old selves as they battered Newcastle by 4-0 in their last Premier League fixture. Marmoush's 14-minute hat-trick killed the game off in the first half, with Manchester City managing the game from there on out. They did limit Newcastle to just 0.48 XG. In terms of form, it's a nice bounce back from the 5-1 loss to Arsenal, and perhaps they might be back to winning ways once again. They host a Liverpool side who beat Wolves in their last match. Luis Diaz got Liverpool off to a great start as he bundled the ball into the back of the net to make the breakthrough. Diaz then won a penalty which was expertly dispatched by Mo Salah to make it 2-0 at the half. However, Wolves appeared to just have nothing to lose. They came out of the interval the better side and managed to find a goal thanks to Matheus Cunha, but it was Slot's side that managed the game from there out, hanging on to win by 2-1. In terms of form, it's a bit mixed of late for Liverpool. 1 win, 1 draw and 1 loss in the last 3 matches across all competitions. However, in the Premier League, they are 21 unbeaten. When we look at the head-to-head record, the reverse fixture saw Liverpool win by 2-0 at Anfield in dominant style. Goals scored by Gakpo and Salah. And when we take a look at the stats, the Reds were the deserved winners. They outclassed Manchester City by 18 shots to 8, with 5-1 in terms of big chances, and there was a big gulf in XG as well. 3.57 for Liverpool compared to Manchester City's 0.84. These numbers even suggest that Liverpool could have scored 3 or 4 goals based on the quality of chances created. In terms of form, that win for Liverpool extended an unbeaten run across all competitions to 3 in a row now. Although, when we look at the last 4 Premier League matches, Liverpool have a win, Man City have a win, and the other 2 matches have ended in a draw, so it is pretty hard to pick between the 2 sides. My prediction for today's game is that it is hard to call a winner here. Liverpool are very strong at home and less good away from home, whereas Manchester City have struggled for consistency for a large part of this season, so I'm going to struggle to take a side here. However, both sides are on top form when it comes to their attacking play, and I do like both teams to score. Manchester City have seen both teams to score in 4 of their last 6 Premier League games and in 4 of their last 5 matches at the Etihad. Whereas Liverpool, they've seen both teams to score in 5 of the last 7 Premier League games and in 6 of their last 9 away matches. When we look at the head-to-head record, 3 of the last 4 Premier League games and 9 of the last 11 games across all competitions have seen both teams to score. Therefore, both teams to score is the bet for me, and I'm going to back it with a full stake here in the final bet of today's episode. So there we have it, 4 picks in today's episode, starting off with Arsenal versus West Ham. We're going to be backing the home side, odds of 1.3, a half stake of £20 to return 6. Also on the Saturday, we have Southampton hosting Brighton. We're going to back the away side, odds of 1.58, a half stake of £20 to return 11.60. Moving on to the Sunday, Forest Newcastle. I'm going to back over 2.5 goals, odds of 1.7, a £40 full stake to return 28. Wrapping up the weekend and the episode, Manchester City versus Liverpool. I'd love to back both teams to score, but unfortunately the odds aren't live right now at the time of recording. I'm going to back it for a full stake of £40, and I will update the spreadsheet once the odds go live. So across the weekend, we're going to be risking at least £120 to pick up at least £45.60. Will we do so? Well, there's only one way to find out, and that's to tune into the next episode. But if you have made it to this point in the video, please drop a like down below and subscribe to the channel for more content. Don't forget to check out the continental picks in the pinned comment down below. And as always, have yourself a lovely day.